On today's episode of The Unwritten Rule, it was just a two-man show. It was me and Payton this week. Kenny was gone, but me and Payton tackled another position group. We talked linebackers, did a deep dive. Chuck Hicks, Triston, Newson, Corey Flagg, Khalil Jacobs, main four for Mizzou. We talked about those guys. Also discussed the Theo Wease thing, kind of just touched on it in the beginning of the show. A little bit of a silly issue there. So just touched on it because it was news. And then before we went to Quick Hits, we also talked about the Eli Drinkwitz thing. And what he said about the tickets with Murray State. So we gave kind of our takes on that as well for you guys, because that was obviously a big kind of issue. But another position group is the main bulk of the show. We looked at the linebackers, and we finished Quick Hits, talked some Mizzou alumni, wishing the Tigers a welcome back to school for students, had our Shawnee's main birds of the week, and the best things we learned, talked about the SEC basketball schedule coming out and the dates for Mizzou, the games we like for them, and the preseason coaches, all SEC teams who got snubbed that we thought for Mizzou, and 3 Tigers ended up on it. So we talked about that in Quick Hits as well. So good show. Again, just Payton and I this time around. Kenny will be back. We're almost to previews and games to talk about. 6 days. Unbelievable. Football is back. We're so excited. But until we start doing previews, until we start talking about Murray State, Mizzou, all that stuff, getting into the season, enjoy this one. Another little preview of another position group. Talk Theo Wease, talk Eli Drinkwitz, all that fun stuff. I'll stop talking now. We'll get into the actual meat and potatoes of the show. The Unwritten Rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Payton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, August 23rd, and we have yet another position group we're going to tackle. We're also yet another two-man show. Payton, say hello to the people. It's just me and Payton.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Kenny Van Doren is unavailable. So you're getting the two-man dream team here.
The two-man dream team, truly. The anchor of this podcast, but in a bad way because he brings us down, is gone. I'm just kidding.
Right, of course.
We love Kenny. No, it's just me and Payton this week. We're going to talk linebackers. We've been doing, go back and listen to a couple of other shows. We've been previewing a couple position groups for Mizzou football ahead of the season. But we do have some news, Payton, before that, and some kind of unexpected news from out of, I guess, the wide receiver room. But yeah, more specifically with Theo Wease Jr. This came on Wednesday. This was this news was broken. I will read the just tweet by Eli Hoff because he kind of explains the situation best. Wide receiver Theo Wease Jr. was arrested at 12:57 p.m. yesterday, which was Tuesday, for failure to appear in court and released on a $10 bond, according to Boone County jail records. He was cited in May in Lexington, Missouri, for not wearing a seatbelt. He also mentions, of course, that's 2 FTA arrests for Mizzou since the start of camp. Yeah, kind of a weird one. This came out initially. It came out that he had just been arrested, Theo Wease, and then we found out it was for not wearing a seatbelt. My first comment on this: I have never seen a $10 bail bond before. That made me laugh, and otherwise, I guess, somewhat serious situation.
I really don't think it's that big a deal. This is not Philip Roche, where he has been cited multiple times for going triple digits. I maintain that Philip Roche probably got off pretty easy without a suspension in that regard, but Drinkwitz will run his program his way. Theo Wease, I doubt Drinkwitz will even really address it other than saying, like, yeah, he made a mistake. Failure to appear is just a stupid thing. Like, just go and get it resolved. But I kind of seeing like a $10 bond, a seatbelt, like in Lexington, Missouri. It's a bit ridiculous that they had to put cuffs on him, or I don't know that they did, but he was arrested, and I think that's probably a little more than it needed to be. It is partly Theo Wease's fault, because just get it resolved, man. Like, failure to appear is not something that really has a great excuse. But I mean, a $10 bond failure, like Eli Hoff also mentions, like Wease was not cited for whatever even stopped it, or whatever even prompted him getting stopped in the first place. So clearly he wasn't like doing anything too malicious. This is one where I'm going to kind of err on the side of the player. I think it's just a harmless, like it was an innocent mistake that kind of got blown up a little bit because of negligence on Theo Wease's part. He should get the fine paid or appear in court, but the fact that he was arrested, I think, is a little silly for something that required a $10 bond. But I'm glad it didn't endanger. It wasn't something more serious, especially in a year like this. Definitely nothing close to the Philip Roche situation. So it'll probably go away quickly. Especially, it's just surprising with Theo Wease because he's someone that everybody from Drinkwitz to like other receivers, Jacob Peeler, they all rave about Theo Wease as a leader in the room, just a veteran presence that just does so much for them on the field as well. Obviously, a shame that it kind of got to this point, but I'm sure it'll just be something that, for lack of a better term, gets put in the rear view.
Yeah. Sorry, I have to kind of chuckle at that one. But yeah, I mean, I'm blowing this off, quite frankly. I think Theo Wease will be fine. It's wearing a seatbelt. It just seems a little bit ridiculous of a situation. I think you have to add that part of the reason he gets blown up is simply because he's on the Missouri football team. So he's a known person. That is what it is. Eli even says, too, important to note, a seatbelt ticket and multiple triple-digit speeding offenses are not the same thing. Failure to appear is failure to appear. But this situation differed from the prior one, which you talked about with Philip Roche. Yeah, just strange. You know, I'm glad, you know, nothing worse happened, obviously, or whatever. It's just kind of a strange situation that we have to, you know, address, man.
Yeah, it's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, we have to address it because it's news, but Theo Wease will be fine.
Yeah,
$10 bond is just so funny. I've never seen that before.
If it's a $10 bond, I don't think anything that warrants a $10 bond also warrants an arrest. I feel like that can be handled in a different way, but
seems silly. You can do all that stuff online now. What do you think the lowest bond? Do you think it goes below that? Do you think there's like
I have no idea. I can't imagine there's many tiers below this. In fact, there probably are only at max 9 tiers below this.
It's true. Negative dollars. They pay you. Yeah. Weird stuff, but you know, just obviously I'm not expecting anything to arise. I think, like Payton said, you know, Drinkwitz, I think you said it perfectly. They'll probably be like, they made a mistake. They got it handled, whatever. So we'll move swiftly onward. But we did want to address that just because it was news that came out in the last few days since we recorded last. So looking forward to a big season from Theo Wease to take it back on the field. I'm excited. That was such a good addition. Also, weird thing, I've been really on a kick of watching old college football highlights. Thinking about that Theo Wease has played with Jalen Hurts is very strange to me.
Yep. It's been a long time. COVID years and everything, man. It screws you up.
Very strange. Those two played on the side. I watched a highlight of Jalen Hurts passing a touchdown pass to Theo Wease on Oklahoma, and I was like, this is so odd. But there you go. Anyway, so a note on Theo Wease. We're going to shift now, Payton, you and I. We're going to dive into another position group for the Missouri Tigers. We're going to talk about linebackers. We've talked corners. We've talked running backs. We've talked defensive line on previous shows. So go listen to those because we did good breakdowns. And we're going to talk about the linebackers here. Payton, I think we should probably start with, you know, with who's gone, I think, in this room, and what Mizzou kind of has to replace there with Tyron Hopper, of course. He was Mizzou's third leading tackler last season, which was impressive considering he missed some time. 55 tackles, 3 sacks, 4 pass deflections is what you're replacing in Tyron Hopper. He's, of course, with Payton's favorite team, the Green Bay Packers, now in the NFL. But Payton, I mean, how big, when you look at this group as a whole, before we get into some of the individuals, how big of a hole does Tyron Hopper leave, and how well do you think Missouri's going to fill it this year?
I think this is probably the position group that, with like, you know, a bit of a competition in it, that I'm kind of like the least concerned about, really. I mean, I'm not super concerned about the O-line. It's just there's some unsettled positions there as well. But this one, I mean, I really think you have 4 legit options to start here. They got Chuck Hicks and Triston Newson back in the fold. Newsom, in particular, I think really, really flashed at the end of the year. Chuck Hicks had a really rough game against Florida, but other than that, I really think wasn't too bad for the most part. But like you said, I mean, losing Tyron Hopper is a void they'll have to fill. I don't think Tyron Hopper was an infallible player. I mean, he had issues with missed tackles on occasion. He, I think, was probably he was a decent pass pro linebacker, but we had or pass coverage. We had Max Chadwick on to talk about Tyron Hopper once, among other things. He did say sometimes Tyron Hopper would just play almost too fast because, I mean, he'd just get downhill or like go side to side a little too quickly, and it would sometimes get him out of position. So he's a big loss. I mean, nobody on this team, I think, is as good as Tyron Hopper when Hopper was really on, but he wasn't a do no harm player. They can replace him. Newsom and Hicks, I'm sure we'll get the first look, just being the guys that are back in the fold. But Corey Flagg, I mean, we talked about him when Mizzou first picked him up. Very, very experienced starter coming in from Miami. I honestly expect him to start. I don't know over who, but I would be really shocked. We haven't seen a ton of reports about linebackers or anything, but I'd be really shocked if he doesn't play. If he doesn't start, at least play a substantial amount of snaps. I don't know who I'd guess he'd start over. Chuck Hicks has been at Mizzou for what feels like 7 years. Triston Newsom really, really flashed at the end of the season, but I do think Corey Flagg will fight his way into the mix. And Khalil Jacobs, the transfer from South Alabama, obviously there's familiarity there with Corey Batoon on the defensive side of the ball. He was pursued by other big programs. I believe you would have to correct me if I'm wrong, but he was pursued by Alabama in the portal. Yeah, I would expect those 4 really to be the ones that kind of get a decent amount of snaps. Khalil Jacobs, Corey Flagg, Chuck Hicks, and Triston Newsom. Jeremiah Beasley, I mean, he was a big get for Mizzou, getting him to flip from Michigan as a freshman, something that's pretty rare. You don't see that much, but after Harbaugh left, Beasley went ahead and flipped his commitment to Mizzou. Or technically, I guess it was a transfer pickup, but again, very strange there. But I don't expect him to play a whole ton just because he is a true freshman. He is behind 4 guys that are way more experienced than him in terms of just games played, and in Khalil Jacobs' case, familiarity with the scheme. Brayshawn Littlejohn is a guy that if Kenny was here, if Kenny was here, he would tell you all about Brayshawn Littlejohn. He's a guy that the coaches have raved about, but kind of just a numbers game here with the guys in front of him again. And Brian Huff, Nicholas Rodriguez, 2 guys that I'm sure Missouri loves, but not going to be fighting for snaps, I don't think, as true freshmen.
Yep. First of all, Littlejohn, I'm so sad. I see all these all-name teams, and I've never seen him on one, and it makes me upset every time.
They'll learn soon enough, Knowlton.
A great name. Yeah, Beasley felt more like that almost felt like more of a recruiting get. Like, I know he was a transfer, but it felt more like just working kind of for back to front here. Like, that felt more like all right, just Mizzou got him kind of on the back end, the classic drink. I kept that relationship open, and he came to us eventually. I feel like he's a long-term kind of guy.
Definitely an investment for the future. Yes.
Yeah, that's what that felt like. Along with Rodriguez and Huff, people really liked. I remember when they got both of them. Khalil Jacobs, he didn't end up being like quite a take at Alabama, but there was a little bit of steam there because they have Kane Womack as their DC, who was South Alabama's head coach. So, but I remember we talked to Gabe DeArmond, and Gabe really liked him and thought Khalil Jacobs might get some legit playing time. And you mentioned Corey Flagg, like it kind of seems like these two, and I want to talk about Chuck Hicks and Triston Newson too, because I think they're really, really interesting cases with how they played at the end of the season. But Khalil Jacobs, Corey Flagg, I mean, if you want to elaborate any more on Flagg, I think Khalil Jacobs can maybe be like, he might not have been quite the Alabama level, but he kind of feels perfect for For Mizzou level, I think he had some like really interesting stats. He's a little bit smaller from what I remember as a linebacker. I'm trying to pull his stats up to have it in front of me.
Smaller and faster is a legit prototype for linebackers. So I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think Flagg, just like because you mentioned, maybe touch on him a little more. Flagg is more your like prototypical, like bigger, like kind of run stuffer. I believe we looked at his PFF grades before. He's a very, very sure hand tackler. So I don't think you'll see a lot of guys get out of his grasp once he wraps you up. But again, I think it's a very good mix here. Just with Newson, Hicks being back into the fold. Hicks, I mean, has just played forever. Flagg is also very experienced. He did have a few quotes. I remember he was able to talk to the media and talked about why he picked Mizzou. I'd have to go find them, but he did speak glowingly of the staff. And Khalil Jacobs, like you said, Gabe DeArmond thought he was legit. Those four, I think, all will play like legitimate snaps. I don't know how they'll do it. I don't know what the share will be, but I do think it'll be those four and then the rest of the roster, to say the least.
I'll ask you this then. I'll make you pick one. Corey Flagg starts, because I actually think you're right. Corey Flagg, like to read his stats, he had, as a true sophomore, he had 60 tackles, which is the most he's had, and 3 sacks too at Miami, and a pick 2 years ago, 56 tackles, 2.5 sacks. Last year, 48 tackles. Did not have a sack, but had a forced fumble. I don't know if he played in like fewer games. No, it looks like he played in every game. Had 1 10 tackle game against Virginia. That feels really solid to me compared to yes, a Chuck Hicks who's been around for a long time, but has really only had 1 true season of game time at Mizzou, other than like he's played a little bit at Wyoming before he came and then kind of rode the pine a little bit. Is he the guy you pick? Do you think it's Triston Newson and Corey Flagg?
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't really speak on what the staff is feeling. It's a position that we really have not heard a whole ton of buzz about, which I think honestly is probably a good thing because it means it's not standing out for being bad. And I think that's something you worry about with linebackers when they have to cover running backs or tight ends just out of the backfield, running backs or tight ends just off the line. They can get burned really easily. So I think not hearing a ton about them could be a little bit of a good thing. If I had to guess, I really don't think you bring in a multi-year starter from another power program like Miami and not have him start, or at least maybe split the snaps. If I had to guess, I really do think it'll be Corey Batoon and Triston Newson out there.
What?
But I do think
Corey Batoon's going to play.
Or sorry. Yeah, Corey Flagg and Triston Newson. But I do think Chuck Hicks will still play a lot and be in that linebacker mix.
I'm gonna make a brief case for Khalil Jacobs, and I'm gonna try and pull up some PFF numbers to back me up. Khalil Jacobs, I think I looked at Hicks and Corey Flagg. They're both like 6'2", 230 or 6 foot 230. Khalil Jacobs 6'2", 218. Dalen Carnell 6'2", 218. They have like the same build. So
interesting. How tall and how big is Corey Flagg?
Corey Flagg's like 6 foot 230.
Okay, so he's a little bit bigger, like bulkier. Okay.
So I wonder if like do you look at Khalil Jacobs as like I want to try and find, like I'd have to look at his coverage numbers, but like I wonder, do you use him in some sort of like as like a star backup to Dalen Carnell and maybe he gets some more play?
I doubt that. I really doubt that.
I don't coverage.
I really doubt you move a linebacker despite the size. I really don't think you put him at the star. Maybe what's interesting, maybe if he's a little bit quicker than the rest of the guys, or maybe you do this with Triston Newson some too. That Joker role does not necessarily have to be a D end. It could occasionally be like
not the star.
Khalil. Okay.
Yeah.
It could occasionally be Khalil Jacobs, or it could occasionally be Triston Newson kind of coming off the edge. It's a very interesting. It's why I kind of love that Mizzou is sticking with the 4-2-5, because you can just do so many different things. You can throw so many different looks at an offense. And I think that's why they went out and got Corey Flagg and Khalil Jacobs, because it just gives you so much more versatility at your two traditional linebacker spots. You can just rotate in. It'll be very matchup based, I'm sure. But I think when it comes to just your basic, like, all right, 4-2, you're bringing out 4-2-5 here. What are your two guys going to be on the first snap? I would guess it's still going to be Flagg and Newson to start.
I like us talking ourselves into like every position group on this team as we've slowly done these breakdowns. Even the ones
I kind of
like
talked myself out of D end. I'm not gonna lie.
Really? Yeah. That was one that I also ended up coming a little bit. But I'm kind of talking myself into linebacker because I think I agree with you. And you're right. It would be the Joker role, not the Stark. But Khalil Jacobs last year, as a sophomore, by the way, and yes, it's at South Alabama, but I mean, it's a South Alabama team where the head coach went to be a DC at an SEC program and the DC went to be a DC at an SEC program. So, he had good coaching, 53 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and a pick. It's a pretty productive kind of year for a guy. And yeah, he's going to be making a pretty big jump, but that feels like a pretty good get for them. On Triston Newson and Chuck Hicks, I'm curious your thoughts on how, like, I know it's, you go through the offseason, things change, you get new additions, you have a new DC, all these things. But I wonder how big it is for these two to have like the end of the years that they did, where like Triston Newson was Mizzou's Mizzou's best defensive players against. I had 15 tackles against Arkansas and 10 in the bowl game against Ohio State, 9 the week before Arkansas against Florida. Those were like he passed his season high in those 3 games. Chuck Hicks, 9 tackles against Florida, 6 against Tennessee, 6 against Arkansas. Those are his top 2 season highs from last year. Like, I wonder how big of it do you think it is for them? And obviously, I think even from like a fan perspective, you go into the next year being a lot more optimistic about those two, just given what they did at the end of 2023. Was that more like they just got a lot of run because Tyron Hopper was hurt, or do you think you saw maybe a corner turn for some of them? I mean,
that it was because Hopper and Bailey were hurt that those two were even on the field really to begin with. But I mean, Newsom was a guy that kind of was earning more and more playing time next to Hopper, really. In general, he played really, really, really well to end the year. He was, like you said, he was one of their better defenders by the end of the season. Hicks it's interesting because he had spurts where he played really well. I remember him playing pretty decently against Ohio State, but I could be wrong. But I think he played well there. Everybody played well against Arkansas, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But I think he in particular made a few plays. But man, he was a mess against Florida. I mean, they picked on him with ETN out of the backfield. They were able to get some favorable matchups, and it just did not work. And everybody on the defense kind of did not play well. Darius Robinson, I remember, who was Missouri's defensive MVP last year, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he got eaten alive on a few read options when Max Brown was in the game. So it happens. But Hicks, I do think it's just, he like we've said, I mean, he's been in college for about a decade, but he really didn't have a ton of playing time. He dealt with injuries when he first got to Missouri. He stuck it out. I mean, he played special teams the year before last, I think primarily. And he had spurts where he played well. He played well against Arkansas. I'm pretty sure he played well against Ohio State. I'd have to go back and watch it, but I remember him playing well there. So I think they're comfortable with both him and Newsom, really.
Yeah. I just wonder, like, I don't know if that kind of, I get it was against Arkansas and like, for Newsom, it was 10 tackles. It's Ohio State's like third stringers. I just wonder if like for their confidence, they just feel like they maybe have like turned a corner and then they can, kind of go into the next season just rolling with some momentum. I wonder how real that'll kind of become for them. But yeah, I don't know. And I really like the idea of Jacobs. I really didn't realize until I was looking into this, like how experienced Corey Flagg was too. Like that feels like it's going to be a super, super helpful, even just from like a leadership perspective. I mean, we were talking about that in the defensive, like along the defensive line with, Christian Williams coming back rather, and being really good for that. You have stuff in couple guys in the secondary, like Dalen Carnell. I wonder if we start hearing Corey Flagg becomes, kind of one of those, not like an actual captain, but one of those kind of outspoken guys in the linebacker room or for this defense. It's an interesting group.
No, definitely. I really like the only thing I think we really decided to talk about linebacker for is just because it's just kind of deciding how they're going to divvy up the snaps between the top four.
Yeah.
And maybe they do mix in Little John or Beasley a little bit. I mean, Beasley was a big get for Missouri. That was one that people were very, very excited for. I mean, if Harbaugh did not leave Michigan, Missouri would not have gotten him. So that's a big get for them. And Little John's a guy that the coaching staff, I remember Blake Baker, have talked glowingly about. So he's someone that they, I think, have faith in eventually. But I think it's really just these top four. I really have very little doubt that they will get solid play at worst from this group. I think it's a pretty good vet unit. And I have no doubt that they'll get at least solid play out of two of them.
So we did this. I agree. And I think the Khalil Jacobs, I think I'm now going to be looking for this Khalil Jacobs Joker, those kind of the plays when they maybe try that. Because I wonder if you do that and you chuck Johnny Walker on the other defensive line and just have two super fast edge rushers. If a team's like tackles are pretty weak. I wonder if that's something you try.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably worth seeing maybe if Triston Newson or Khalil Jacobs can kind of fill that void. We have to see how Batoon wants to implement that in the game. That'll be something that I do think getting a game like Murray State, which it's been a big controversy that we're not going to get into about the debate about having Murray State on a Thursday and the ticket sales and all that. But I do like having a kind of a cupcake early because it's a good time to try something like this. It'll be good for Batoon to kind of get his reps in and see how he can rotate guys in effectively.
Yeah. I guess we've done this kind of inadvertently now, Payton, but we've looked at each kind of room on the defense, secondary, defensive line, linebacker. Where would you rank them in terms of your confidence? Because I think this feels like a season, or like it is a season where, I don't know, to an extent, like this team might go as far as this defense is able to take them collectively. Like, which room are you the most worried about?
I'll just power rank them real quick. I mean, I'm most confident they'll get good play out of D tackles. It sounds like Marquise Gracial has really been great. I think that is a massive, massive plus for Missouri. To have McClellan and Webb as your second unit coming in on the D-line, I think that's really good. I think they're in good shape there. I think linebacker is probably going to be my second, like just your traditional, the 2 in the 4-2-5. I think that's probably going to be my second most confident. I feel very fine there. If you want to like split star off into its own thing, that's my most confident unit. I have no problem with I have no literally thoughts about Dalen Carnell other than, okay, he's the star. He's going to be great there.
Spoiler alert to my own best thing I learned. No all SEC preseason nod for him.
Yeah.
That made me mad.
Which is insane. It's just because he plays like a weird position. He's not going to get like not every defense has a star.
He won't be a strong
really.
Safety. Yeah. He won't be a strong safety pick.
I'd say middle of the pack in confidence. I'll give to safeties. I think Marvin Burks flashed a ton as a true freshman, and I think he's really been great. He'll really be great at the free. I think Our Lads has it flipped. I think Burks will play free safety. Charleston will play the strong safety role, but Charleston has been a steady vet outside of maybe 2 games in his time at Missouri. So I think he'll be great. He'll cover for a lot of maybe younger underclassmen mistakes that Marvin Burks makes. I think they'll be good there. I will say, though, they're one injury away from that being a very scary unit. I mean, you have Philip Roche back there, who also made plays last season and isn't suspended, so he'll be in the mix. Caleb Flagg has apparently been very good in camp, but he is still a preferred walk-on from Houston Baptist. So I'm a little worried about that if he has to play a ton of snaps. Yeah. And Trevez Johnson, I'll be straight up, he did not play well last year. There's just no way around it. I was not impressed by him. I would really like to not see him play a ton of snaps. I'll say defensive end is my second least confident. Not that I think it'll be bad. I think they'll figure it out and get decent play. But again, one injury away from it being kind of scary. You're kind of locked into Walker and Young being your primary guys. We'll see how they mix in other guys into that joker role. But I think losing Darius Smith is a big loss. And obviously, Nwaneri, I really doubt will have a huge impact in his freshman season. It's so hard to do that as a true freshman at the end. And dead last is cornerback. I think it is the weakest position on the team. Or not weakest, maybe, but the biggest question mark. I mean,
Have you
Nick
seen
Deloach. What was that?
I said, have you seen who they have at punter?
I don't really care who they have at punter anymore. But I mean,
from a weakest on the team standpoint.
Oh, that's probably true as well. But I mean, in terms of just going of Nick Deloach going from not playing a snap his freshman year to apparently being the number 2 guy next to Norwood, maybe that means he's been excellent. That just scares me. That scares me to have a guy that you had not play at all, not play one defensive snap last year, all of a sudden starting, like over Toriano Pride, mind you, who was supposed to be maybe your best transfer addition. That scares me a little.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you. I don't know if I'd change one of them. I think, or like one of them in your rankings. I think that's solid. There's some question marks, but I think there's some good players here. And weirdly, I think there's like a lot of good depth here. Like I don't know if Corey Flagg and Khalil Jacobs can be great. If it, like you said with the D tackles, if it seems like Gracial is going to start, McClellan and Webb seem great to have as backups there. So I don't know. Yeah, it's just a lot of like. I feel like it's hard to even rank them in order. There's just some I feel great about, and some I'm like a little bit scared, like corner and D end.
Corner is truly the only one where I kind of go into the year thinking like, okay, that might be a problem.
That could be bad. Yeah.
The other positions I'm really fine with. I think they'll be all right. Corner scares me a little bit. I hope that Drayden Norwood is ready. I mean, Drayden Norwood played really well as a CB3 the last few years, but he is now he is going to go out and have to he's going to get the best assignment every night. Yeah. Like that is a huge jump. And Nicholas Deloach is going from not playing a snap to having to get a team's wide receiver too. Yeah, that scares me, quite frankly.
Yeah, now my mind's going to like who Drayden Norwood's going to have to guard one-on-one. It's a little bit frightening. If it's like a Moose Muhammad on A&M or a Kendrick Law on Bama,
we'll see. We'll have to see.
I think Payton, before we go to quick hits, I think we're doing a little bit of a disservice to our viewers if we don't touch on the Drinkwitz thing. I think we need to mention it. We don't need to launch into any rants, but with the tickets, I mean, he brought it up how he was talking about he wants to sell out. I don't know. I mean, I thought that was interesting considering it is Murray State.
It was a very interesting quote, but I 100% agree with him because quite frankly, there's not an excuse to not sell out after your team goes 11-2 and wins a New Year's Six Bowl. I think I know people are like, oh, well, they don't let you tailgate till 3 p.m. Oh, it's on a Thursday. Like, there's not an excuse really. That's just I'm gonna be quite frank. Like, I know I'm going to sound like a hypocrite because I'm not going to the game, but I don't live in Missouri anymore. But I think it's a little silly to actually care that much that you can only drink for 4 hours before Murray State. And it does not, like, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it leaves an even worse taste in Drinkwitz's mouth to potentially not sell out a game like your season opener after what they accomplished last year. I think that's just a big smack in the face. But I mean, there's not a ton of tickets left. There's still, it probably will sell out because I'm sure the athletic department at a certain point is going to start practically giving these tickets away. But I quite frankly, like, I know it's a little, it wasn't a great PR move for Drink because it kind of got blown up into a national thing. and that kind of got Mizzou to catch a bit of flack. But I get his frustration 100% because, quite frankly, it's kind of silly that it hasn't sold out yet. And I think it would be a really bad disservice to the team and the program if it doesn't.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, like, it's one of those things, like, Drink has earned that a little bit. I realize it's been one good season, but yeah, I mean, you've worked this hard to put your team in this position. You want the stadium to be full for the opening game of the new season where you're trying to do something even better. Like,
right.
I think you've earned that spot, frankly. And I'm going to steal something you said in a group chat. We were talking about this. Like, you talked about kind of the paranoia that I know a couple of us feel, like, if Drinkwitz has another good season, what could be in store in the future? Like, other teams who are really good sell this game out. And you know, maybe there was a little read between the lines message a little bit. And I get that could be the paranoia talking of what could potentially happen to Drink with another good season. But I mean, you were right when you said that. Other Power 4 teams sell their opener out after going 11-2.
Yeah, I mean, you think that Florida would not have sold this game out by now? You think you think Georgia fans would be complaining that, oh, we'd only get to tailgate for 4 hours? You think Ole Miss would not have sold this game out? Quite frankly, Missouri has one of the lowest capacity stadiums in the SEC. They have 2 giant hubs that are 2 hours away, and I get it. School night and everything, work the next day. I get it's not easy to make and it's not a totally marquee matchup, but damn it, I have always been one that stands by the team's not, there have always been the argument that the team's not good because there's no fans showing up. I think you need to win before fans, you have the faith of the fans and the fans reward you for that. But once you do start winning, like Missouri did last year, then the onus is on the fans to kind of show up, do their part. Yeah. And I quite frankly think if they don't sell out Murray State, that's on the fans. That's not a disservice to who Missouri scheduled, or that's not on who Missouri scheduled. It's not on who Missouri or when Missouri scheduled the game. It's not on definitely not on when Missouri opens the tailgates. Yeah. Go to the damn game. They went 11-2. They put the game on Thursday so they could have the spotlight on Faroe Field. That's why Missouri has put these games on Thursdays. It's a brilliant move. There's not really a good excuse to not sell it out.
I didn't see a lot of discourse. Is some of it actually behind? People think 4 hours is too short of a time to tailgate?
That is, people legitimately, in response to the clip of Drink having that quote, said well, maybe they should have opened the lots earlier than 3 p.m. You guys got to remember, Missouri is still a university, all right? There's still students going to class. Get over it, man. You'll have other tailgates. And I don't want to rail on the fans too much because they've already sold out a ton of the other games.
There is a lot, yeah.
Boston College is sold out. Oklahoma, obviously, homecoming. There will be other, and like I said, I would assume just based on the amount of tickets that are left, Murray State will probably be a sellout. But if it doesn't sell out, that is a big slap in the face.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I also I like tailgating, standing around outside for longer than I'm going to be sitting in the actual game. That doesn't sound fun. I'll get a nice
hour-long
power hour tailgate in. I don't know.
I think, and people did call to the credit of a lot of people, they did there were people pointing out if you're only there to tailgate, you're not there for the right reasons. So
right, yeah.
And I think that is a good point to make, but we'll see. I'm sure it'll sell out really, and it'll be all hunky dory. But it's just I don't blame Drink for being mad about that.
Yeah, I don't think the call to action is necessarily a bad thing. I think he's earned the right to be rallied around, and I think it's up to the fans to do it.
Drink had to, and it was quite frankly deserved from the fan base to him. He had to deal with people calling for his job. He had to deal with people doubting his program and not showing up because they weren't any good.
Right.
But in return, when they win 11 games and win a New Year's Six, he probably deserves a sold-out Furrow Field. I quite frankly don't know how that's controversial in any way to say. I think it's a little ridiculous that it wouldn't happen.
I agree. All right. I think we had to touch on that because that got big. That was a whole debacle. All right, there you go. There's a Drinkwitz talk and a little look at the linebacker room. We will close out this show with quick hits. Okay, quick hits time. We have a blooper that we're going to cut out for Payton's sake, but Payton incurred a blooper, which means we're adding to the blooper reel, and that's the first blooper I've had, I think, in months. So we've done well with no nonsense, but Payton broke the streak. So I'm just putting that out in the world. Back to the 0 days without nonsense. Quick hits time. We got Jersey of the Week to start. Kenny is not here, so I will be reading Kenny's quick hits, starting with his Jersey of the Week, which goes to former Mizzou and longtime NFL linebacker Markus Golden. He announced his retirement. Congrats to Markus Golden. I think he's in the league for like 12 seasons. If I'm
like 11.
mistaken.
We talk about this every time we talk about him. We can't figure it out. But
yeah, congrats.
Yeah, I mean, like he was put on the reserve retirement. Like we talked about this before. Like this is just him officially announcing it. He like was in camp with the Steelers for a week. Probably realized he didn't have it anymore and just decided to hang it up. But yeah, very good career for him. I mean, he's set for life. Very good Missouri Tiger, very proud Missouri Tiger. So
yeah, he did say big thank you to God, my family, friends, St. Louis, Matthew Dickey and Boys and Girls Club, Afton, Hutchinson Community College, Mizzou, the Arizona Cardinals, New York Giants, Pittsburgh Steelers, for all giving me the opportunity to pursue my dreams. There you go.
Yeah.
So congrats to Markus Golden. Happy trails. Enjoy retirement. And please come bang Big Mo during the season now that you have some time.
He will one day.
Payton, Jersey.
My Jersey of the Week is, you can give it to any number of James Franklin, Markus Golden. Here, we can do it again for Markus Golden if you really want. Jeremy Maclin. I'm going to choose specifically Luke Mann, and I'll show you why. So Barstool Mizzou put together a thread of several famous alum putting together like happy first day of classes videos. They had, as you can see here, Greg Miller. They had James Franklin, Markus Golden, Jeremy Maclin, and Luke Mann, Superman 11 on Twitter here. Just kind of wishing Missouri students a happy first day at Mizzou. I chose Luke Mann in particular because he has, as you can see if you're watching on the YouTube, in the background, he taped up a piece of paper that says, "Fuck KU." So you gotta give him props for that.
He also has a sick shirt. Like I love that's the Yay Bear and with the Mizzou Letterman.
Mizzou letter jacket, yeah.
Rules.
Very
not
cool.
a Kanye West fan now, but that logo is cool, and with the Mizzou.
Luke Mann has been doing well in the minor leagues for the A's this year, if anyone is curious. So
nice.
Yeah.
My Jersey of the Week, we're going to the major leagues. Speaking of baseball, I'm giving it to Kevin James. I'll say it's a Mets jersey. I assume that's a custom jersey if you're seeing it on the YouTube. He did I don't even know what he did. He was just like saying telling everyone to play ball. I don't know. He must have thrown out the first pitch.
You didn't watch your own quick hit?
No, I didn't see, but he's just like doing the thing. I don't know what he did to, like, why does he have the microphone? I assume they had him throw out the first pitch, but it doesn't show him.
Well, he's probably just doing play ball. I didn't actually watch this either, but it's the first time I've seen this.
I'm picking Kevin James because he did the famous clip where he says, "God bless our troops, God bless America, and gentlemen, start your engines" at the NASCAR thing, but he did it. He said,
"Oh yeah, he's just doing that probably with the play ball." Yeah, you can tell he's yelling play ball there.
Yeah, I watched the clip, Payton.
You said you didn't.
No, I didn't know if he threw out the first pitch also.
Oh,
I
don't know.
This. If you know the Kevin James clip, it's really funny, and he recreated it. This might be a really niche quick hit because I don't know how many people know it.
No, I think I think everyone. Yeah, I think everyone knows that clip. That's a famous clip.
Yeah,
that's what
he did it. He did it again, and it was funny. So I'm picking him as my jersey. No Mizzou connection, but shout out. Are the Mets good?
You don't always need one. What?
Are the Mets good?
I mean, they're kind of fighting for a playoff spot. I don't know.
Capping. He's
Don't
the
ask me
main
baseball
bird.
questions. I'm not paying attention.
Fair enough. No baseball for Payton. Main bird of the week. Kenny's main bird of the week. This is gonna be a tough. Yeah. Okay. I don't know baseball. But he's giving it to Chandler Redmond of the Memphis Redbirds, the AAA affiliate. What did he ask me to do with this one again?
He wants you to read the hometown of Chandler Redmond. Chandler Redmond, the reason Kenny picked him, by the way, was moved up to AAA.
Status active. He was born on, what is that? January 9th, 1997.
January 9th,
Middletown, Maryland. There you go.
Middletown, Maryland.
That
mean anything to you?
No.
Good one, Kenny.
I'm sure it's nice. Good one, Kenny. Why did he pick this?
Because Chandler Redmond was moved up to AAA and Kenny talked to him last year.
Did he go to Mizzou?
No, he went to Gardner-Webb, running Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs. What's your main bird of the week, Payton?
My main bird of the week is going to be...
He's the main bird.
C.Y. Charlton Young, the assistant coach, Coach C.Y., who recruits like a madman. Of course, we covered last year, he had his jersey retired by Georgia Southern because he was a great player. Georgia Southern, just for no real reason, I don't think, just decided to tweet highlights of CY in his days at Georgia Young. This is sick footage. I love footage like this. I mean, like small, mid-major footage like this. That is like a gold mine to me. So yeah, I mean, if you're watching on the YouTube, you can see the caption, by the way, that Georgia Southern just tweeted this with was CY always had the green light. And you can see why. I mean, he's draining 3 balls. Yeah. Crazy. Statesboro loves him clearly. Yeah, man, I don't know. Like footage like this is sick. Like just, it's like,
yeah, it is. Like, that's a cool picture.
So
shout out.
That's basically it. CY.
Payton and I are in a shared dynasty on the new NCAA football video game. Payton is Georgia Southern.
I am the Georgia Southern Eagles. So this is even better for me.
There is one clip in this where he gets the ball on the wing and just everyone's hands go up before he even starts his shooting motion. That's how you know there's a shooter on the team. Like everyone's just like, oh, he's shooting. Like it's just no doubt about it. He's pulling up. Love CY. Yeah. I love CY Young. I hope him and Jacob Peeler, I hope they never leave. They need to stay forever.
I'm pretty sure like the players are always talking about how CY is like an excellent shooter still as well.
No, like I don't doubt it, man. I don't doubt it. You don't lose that. It's muscle memory. Speaking of a really good shooter, my main bird of the week goes to former Iowa Hawkeye Caitlin Clark. I'm not shouting out her shooting in this. I'm actually going to shout out her passing because she broke the rookie record in the WNBA for assists. 226. This was from like 3 days ago, so she probably has more than that now. The assist she got to break it though was like a full court pass, and it was very impressive. So shout out to Caitlin Clark. Glad she's balling. The WNBA arenas, I do just smile every time I watch like WNBA highlights, and the arenas are going crazy. Like it's pretty awesome how that sport has grown. She's certainly a part of that, and also like all the vets who were talking trash about how she wouldn't acclimate to the league. Rookie record for assists. So
she beat Diana Taurasi after she went Paige Becker's next question.
Oof. Yeah, I love the WNBA narrative. So shout out Caitlin Clark. Glad she's playing well. Yeah, I was gonna make a joke that with bird like bird fever, but it's bird flu, not bird fever, because she's on the fever now. But
heyo, moving on.
Caitlin Clark does not have the bird flu, for the record. Best thing you learned, Payton?
Best thing I learned this week, Missouri basketball has its full schedule announced. The women's team also did announce their schedule. We'll probably talk about that closer to the season. One notable thing from that schedule, the Illinois non-conference game, the bragging rights game for women's basketball is off. That is no longer on Mizzou women's schedule. So very interesting there. That I think was a bit of a surprise to everyone. But yeah, Missouri has their full schedule. I'll run through it really quickly here. 11-4 at Memphis, 11-8 at home versus Howard, 11-11 versus East Washington, 11-14 versus Mississippi Valley State. 11. You know what? I'm not going to run through all these. There's way too many. Basically,
pick some of your favorite ones from SEC play. Pick some of your favorite ones from SEC play.
Yeah, I'll do that. Oh, they do have LIU Brooklyn on the schedule. That's fun. Yeah, so you got You got the border war game on 12/8. That's important. A few days before that, 5 days before that at home, you have California for the SEC ACC challenge. Bragging rights 12/22. Obviously, I got to highlight the Arkansas game 1/18. That's when Arkansas comes to Como and Missouri makes the return trip to Fayetteville on 2/22. You got Kentucky to end the regular season coming to Columbia on March 8th. Interesting here. I don't know why they have March 4th/5th at Oklahoma.
They have it for a bunch. So
they have it for a few. Yeah, I didn't know
all the Wednesday or Tuesday games are all either day. They haven't picked.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a thing. I'm being dumb. But yeah, Missouri.
I'll shout that out too because they do Oklahoma first game against Oklahoma at home on either the 12th or the 11th of February.
Yeah. Do any other games stand out to you? They have the home and home with Oklahoma.
I mean, I'll be watching when they play Bama on either the 18th or the 19th. I don't know how well that'll go for Mizzou. South Carolina, the Jordan Butler revenge game in February.
Yeah, that'll and the Josh Gray revenge game. You gotta remember that.
Sorry, the
trade. It'll be decided on the hardwood.
The home ones are Vandy, Arkansas, Ole Miss, A&M, Oklahoma, Alabama, South Carolina, and Kentucky. That's fun. That's a fun slate.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of wish there was a little more meat on the bone, non-con wise, like maybe like not getting that return.
I don't know, man. This team was bad last year.
But they need it. They really kind of need it. Not getting that home and home return with Minnesota kind of softens the schedule a bit. That is not on the schedule. That'll have to. Minnesota will be making the return trip to Como at a later date, which kind of sucks. I did want to see maybe if there was anything in the air after how last year ended for Minnesota. But again, pretty soft schedule. There is potential here, I will say, if you beat Memphis at Memphis to start the year, assuming you win the rest of your games, including California and all these cupcake games up until Kansas, I think there's a pretty outside chance, assuming Memphis is a decent team, that you're going to get a ranked border war.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like
Memphis,
I'm not saying Missouri is necessarily going to finish the year ranked. I'm not saying that at all. But I think you win at Memphis to kick off the year, win your cupcakes, win against California. You go into the border war unbeaten, kind of like you did in Dennis Gates' first year, although this time you'd have like a real notch under your belt with Memphis because that's better than that Wichita State team was. I think there's a decent chance you get a ranked border war. Not saying it'll happen. Not saying Missouri would deserve to be ranked, but I think it's possible.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm so excited for college basketball already, even though
as am I.
Started, but yeah. Kenny's best thing he's learned. We're doing some facilities talk because Mizzou Track and Field, they got a new indoor facility at the Hearn Center, which about time. This has been long needed for track. Kenny illustrated in shamelessly plugging his own article from back in his college days, but no, this is actually helpful information. The Hearn Center had a track that was flat previously, which was built nearly 50 years ago, which did not match the current standards for a bank track, which is needed in championship meets nowadays, which that meant Mizzou couldn't host any, big meets, for a while. So this is a long time coming. It looks really nice in the video. Happy for the track team that they are getting a little upgrade. Looks pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the bare minimum, because I mean, the fact that they couldn't even host NCAA events was a little silly. But good that they got that updated. I'm sure some minor touch-ups for some of the other sports are coming. I know that the tennis court, I believe, is something that is kind of sorely in need of a bit of a facelift. So we'll see if maybe something like that happens. But
yeah, good for the track team, though. It's nice to have
some,
nicer facilities. My best thing I learned this week, you knew we weren't going to neglect this. It's the all SEC teams because Mizzou had 3 names. Luther Burden was on the first team. He's really good at football, you guys.
Yeah, shocker there.
Shocker there. we talked about it kind of already, but Armand Membou, Cameron Johnson, third team, both those feel deserved. And we kind of got into it for the positional reasons. Dalen Carnell, no appearance, which I guess I get because he's the star and it's a little bit of a weird position. I think Dalen Carnell is going to be amazing this season. Any surprises, Payton? Omissions? Should Membou Johnson been higher?
I will shout out the SEC for giving Cameron Johnson his due. I think any SEC list that does not have Membou or Cameron Johnson on it, I think is a little silly. Cameron Johnson, I don't think people realized how good he was after he came back in to the starting role after getting benched the first time. So glad to see that coaches recognize that. Him and Armand Membou definitely should be on this list, as should Luther Burden, of course. You know, I can't really argue about, like, Brady Cook wouldn't have passed up anyone. He wouldn't have passed up Beck, Ewers, or Milroe, just by virtue of those three being as good as they are. The only one I think Carnell should have grabbed a third team spot, but it is a little tough just because, like, you can classify it as a DB, but DB is just so open to interpretation. You can put anyone you want, like, on that list. So it's just kind of unfortunate for him just based off playing a unique position. I'm surprised Johnny Walker didn't get a mention, at least on the third team. Nobody else, I think, really I would be pounding the table for. Johnny Walker and Dalen Carnell are probably the only two that I'd go, I think they should have been on the list.
That's fair. I would agree. I like Johnny Walker. I like Dalen Carnell. I think they're both going to have good seasons. Even if Mizzou's defense is bad, I think they're going to have good seasons. I don't know. They're good players. They're veterans. Yeah, it's fun. We're in that time. We got the preseason teams. See how much it rings true.
6 days away when this comes out, we'll have a football game to talk about.
We shall. And we'll talk about it for you. All right, so I got Payton. Do you have a joke?
Boy, do I, Knowlton. But first, let me get all this out of the way. Put us full screen. Let me do the producer work.
Look at you producing. Good job.
Knowlton.
Yes.
This one comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show, by the way. What sounds like a sneeze and is made of leather? You're kind of looking at it already, but that's just kind of how it has to be.
Oh, I can't see that. I'm not looking at it.
Okay, good. What sounds like a sneeze and is made of leather?
A chew, a cow,
a cow.
Is that the joke?
A cow is what you're guessing.
Well, I don't know.
You were closer with what you said before that. Do you want me to just tell you?
What did I say before that?
I'm not going to tell you.
Leather,
and sounds like a sneeze. Think about how you sneeze.
Saddle.
You're thinking too deep on the leather part. Think more about the sneeze.
More about the sneeze. Will you go a chew?
Yep, you're getting close. Come on, a shoe.
Shoe? Oh,
a
horseshoe.
Shoe. A shoe.
A shoe. Oh,
a shoe. A shoe.
Yeah,
there you go.
More of a mesh guy. So
yeah. That's great. End the show.
That was dumb. All right, we'll end the show. Hopefully Kenny's back on Monday. Until then, until then, we'll see you then. That didn't make any sense. Let me try that again. Thank you for listening to The Unwritten Rule. I hope you enjoyed. We're looking forward to the start of football season. We'll see you on Monday.